After the glorious victories over Persia, the Greek world entered a new era, but not one of peace. Instead, another, more devastating conflict was brewing within its own borders. It was the Peloponnesian War. The historian Thucydides, who lived through the war, recorded it in masterful detail. He distinguished between the real cause, the rise of Athens, and the fear it caused in Sparta, and the supposed reasons that fueled the conflict. The Peloponnesian War was not simply a geopolitical power struggle, it was also a clash between two diametrically opposed socio-political systems. According to Thucydides, the real cause was the rise of Athens and the fear it caused in Sparta, which made war inevitable. However, the public reasons, the aetii, also played an important role. Immediately after the repulse of the Persians, the Greek city-states of Ionia and the Aegean Islands turned to Athens to form a new defensive alliance. The first phase of the war was a classic confrontation between a land power and a naval power. Sparta sent a force to retake Pylos. However, the Athenian fleet returned and defeated the Spartan fleet. Athens' capture of 292 prisoners, including 120 Spartiates, gave them an invaluable strategic bargaining chip. This event shocked the entire Greek world. For the first time in history, a Spartan army chose to surrender. Nicias's indecision and the self-destruction of Athenian democracy contributed to the tragedy. The disaster in Sicily is a classic lesson in the failure of collective decision-making in wartime. This was the final battle and the end of Athens. The Spartan general Lysander had been watching the Athenians' sloppy habits for days. Lysander launched a surprise attack, destroying almost the entire Athenian fleet without a real naval battle. With the fleet destroyed at Aegospotami, Athens' vital grain supply route from the Black Sea was cut off. The terms of peace were harsh. Athens was to destroy the long walls and become an ally of Sparta. However, Sparta rejected the demand to raise Athens. They argued that a city that had done so much could not be wiped out. The Peloponnesian War left indelible scars on the body of the Greek world. The fall of the Athenian Empire created a power vacuum. And then came his son, Alexander the Great, who would conquer all of Greece. Masterfully chronicled by the historian Thucydides, the war was a tragedy of power, hubris. The Peloponnesian War forever reshaped the ancient Greek world. Although Athens had fallen, its cultural and intellectual legacy lived on. The Peloponnesian War reminds us that the desire for power can also lead to destruction. The story of this war is still told, not to glorify war, but to better understand human nature. Because history is not just what happened, but what we learn from it. And we, the children of Greece, will never stop telling this story. The disastrous defeat in Sicily severely weakened Athens, but the war was not over. The final phase saw Athens fight desperately, but eventually succumb to a combination of three factors: Spartan occupation, Persian financial intervention, and internal self-destruction. Following the fatal advice of Alcibiades, in the spring of 413 BC, the Spartans under King Aegon II captured and fortified the fortress of Decelia, located in northeastern Attica. This was a devastating strategic blow. The permanent presence of a Spartan army at Athens' doorstep completely paralyzed Attica's agriculture, forcing Athens to import all its food by sea. The second blow was the cutting off of the land route to the important silver mines of Laurium, the main source of the Athenian state's finances. More than 20,000 slaves, many of them skilled craftsmen, defected to Sparta, causing heavy losses to the Athenian economy. Meanwhile, a coup broke out in Athens. Democracy was temporarily replaced by the oligarchy of the Council of 400. However, democratic forces in the fleet remained loyal to the old ideals and eventually overthrew the 400 government, restoring democracy. Lysander, a new admiral of Sparta, began to emerge as a talented strategist and a shrewd politician with close ties to the Persians. He used Persian funding to build a powerful Spartan fleet, something unprecedented. Finally, Athens and Sparta faced off in a fateful naval battle at Aegospotami, a narrow bay on the Hellespont. This was the final battle and the end of Athens. With the fleet destroyed at Aegospotami, Athens' vital grain route from the Black Sea was cut off. With no food and no hope, the Athenians were forced to surrender in 404 BC. The terms of the peace were harsh. Athens was to destroy the long walls, disband its fleet, and become an ally of Sparta. However, Sparta rejected demands from its allies Thebes and Corinth to raise Athens. They argued that a city that had done so much in the Persian Wars could not be wiped out. The Peloponnesian War left indelible scars on the body of the Greek world. The fall of the Athenian Empire created a power vacuum that no one could fill until the rise of the Macedonians. And then his son, Alexander the Great, who would conquer all of Greece and reach as far as India. Masterfully chronicled by the historian Thucydides, the war is a tragedy of power, hubris, and inevitable collapse. The Peloponnesian War forever reshaped the ancient Greek world, but left lessons for all time. Though Athens fell, its cultural and intellectual legacy lives on, inspiring thousands of years later. It was a symbol of the eternal vitality of ideas. The Peloponnesian War reminds us that even in the most advanced societies, internal strife and the lust for power can lead to destruction. The story of this war is still told, not to glorify war, but to better understand human nature, the choices that shape history, and the undeniable value of freedom and peace. Because history is not just what happened, but what we learn from it. And we, the children of Greece, will never stop telling this story. From the east, the Persians watched with a smile. They poured gold into Greek conflicts, weakening the Greek world without raising a sword again. And then a new power arose from the north. The Macedonians, led by King Philip II, began to advance into the heart of Greece. The Greeks, weary of division and war, were unable to unite against the new invaders. Finally, Alexander the Great, Philip's son, put an end to the era of independent city-states once and for all. Greece entered a new era under the shadow of an empire.
Let them fight.
The Peloponnesian War forever reshaped the ancient Greek world, but from its ashes, great lessons were learned. Lessons about arrogance, about division, and about the true value of freedom. Though Athens had fallen, its cultural and intellectual legacy lived on, inspiring thousands of years later. It was a symbol of the eternal vitality of ideas. The Peloponnesian War reminds us that even in the most advanced societies, internal strife and the lust for power can lead to destruction. The story of this war is still told, not to glorify war, but to better understand human nature, the choices that shape history, and the undeniable value of freedom and peace. Because history is not just what happened, but what we learn from it. And we, the children of Greece, will never stop telling this story.